Eyes of Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
He's on bigger guys, and sometimes that's going to happen, so we got to do a little bit more with the guards to help him at times as well. But, there was, he's a powerful, athletic guy that, hopefully we don't get in there where we're throwing the ball 49 times,
He's a guy. He's a powerful.
Who was he talking about? Bradbury?
Garrett Bradbury.
Yeah. So we're still sitting here with a first round pick center from a few years ago, who's in his prime, and we're talking about, he's just he's going to be dealing with some bigger guys, and he's going to need some guard help. Like we're doing that with a first round pick.
And you're talking about a left guard who's new to left guard and a right guard who's new to guard, period, because he's a tackle. But he's going to help out the first round pick. Like, think about that.
Who's the most senior player among the three of them?
Now, if we're talking about let's expand this out just a little bit. If we're talking about Joe Thuney, right? You're like, oh, okay, cool. Veteran, guard, highly paid. He can help.
Steve Hutchinson, come on down.
He can help.
Why don't you help out the young center here, John Sullivan?
Hey, Ole, Ezra, can you help out Garrett?
Dakota. Ole. Come on back over here for a second.
Dakota's on the practice squad. Don't say that. That could happen.
Ole and Ezra would be a great football podcast, like offensive line breakdowns with
like
Ole
a yacht rock band too. Ole and Ezra. Yeah.
Oh man, England Dan and John Ford Coley for those who really partake in yacht rock lifestyle. This is Mackie and Judd. Speaking of yacht rock lifestyle. Loafers and no socks lifestyle approved here. Mackie and Judd, executive producer Declan Goff. And this is daily Minnesota sports entertainment. We just want titles. That's all we want. And we want our teams to strive for more. And part of that process is holding people accountable in a segment on Tuesdays we call Who Gets It and Who Doesn't. Let's start with Declan Goff.
All right. Opening statement of who gets it, who doesn't. Derek Carr gets it, and Kirk Cousins does not. That is my opening statement. Derek Carr gets it, and Kirk Cousins
whammy in
does not get it.
Okay.
Now, both these quarterbacks, I think, do belong in the same tier. If we're doing quarterback tier rankings, it's probably very likely they're both in that same tier. Maybe one slightly above the other, but in general, if you're ranking quarterbacks, top 32 in the league, you'd probably see Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr right behind one another. But there is a different demeanor about each of them. When you watch Derek Carr, especially last night in the Monday Night Football game against the Baltimore Ravens, the way he carries himself, the way he talks about his teammates, that is not Kirk Cousins. Derek Carr has a clutch gene to him. 25 game-winning drives in the NFL since 2014, most in the NFL. That's not Kirk Cousins. Derek Carr making $21 million against the cap, significantly less than Kirk Cousins, allows you to build out your roster a little bit. Also, he's under contract for one more year, and if you wanted to, you could get out of that contract without handicapping yourself to a quarterback who is only in tier 2 or 3 of the quarterback tiers. So in my opinion, Derek Carr gets it, Kirk Cousins does not. And even when you watch the way he talks about his teammates like he did with Lisa Salters on ESPN last night, again, I just don't see how these two are the same guys.
Not like this, you know what I mean? Like, I can't lose a game like this. We did too many good things to get us in that position to win it. But the thing that I love the most, everyone wanted to talk crap about our defense for 12 months. And they stepped up when we needed it the most and got us the ball back so we could win it again.
Did you think you were going to get the ball back?
100%. 100% thought we were going to get the ball back. Absolutely. I have all the confidence in the world in them, and it's never wavered.
Take me through the touchdown pass to Zay Jones. It wasn't to Waller. It wasn't to Ruggs. It wasn't to Edwards. It was to Zay Jones.
That's right. Beautiful thing about that is it was audible that Coach told me, hey, during the week, if we ever get this look, get ready for this play. And Zay Jones was in. Zay Jones, since he got to our team, every time I ask him when to throw, he's there at 6 a.m. Every time. He's never missed one. So to see him come up with a game winner like that, last 2 times we've been Monday night, he has 2 touchdowns. I hope everyone in the world roots for Zay Jones because he works harder than anybody on our team.
You like that?
I mean, that is not number 8 for Minnesota. That is a completely different dude. Derek Carr gets it. Kirk Cousins does not.
So it's funny you brought this up, Dex, and a wonderful job laying it out and stating your case. Let's see what the American public thinks, because Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio put this poll out I think it was around like the halfway point of that game last night, Monday Night Football. Who would you rather have on your team, Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr? Have you guys looked at the results of this or no?
I saw it early on.
No.
Okay. What would you guess after 30,000 votes? What would you guess America says? Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr? And what percentage?
I'm going to guess America says Kirk Cousins, although there's probably some recency bias involved.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it's very, very close, like 53%, 52%.
So you're saying 53% Cousins, Declan?
Yeah.
I would say probably even 56 Carr, 40, what was that be? 40, 43 Kirk Cousins,
Yeah,
my math?
you pretty much nailed it. 56.5% say Derek Carr is the quarterback they'd rather have. So I've had sort of an epiphany here too, and I'll piggyback off Declan with my own who gets it and who doesn't, all right? Who doesn't get it? People who now still put Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, and Matthew Stafford on the same tier as Kirk Cousins. And I've been guilty of this too, where, once you get past like the top 8 or 9 quarterbacks once you get past like Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, then you get to a chunk where there's like 12 guys all in a hat. Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr. So, for one, now that Matthew Stafford is with a legitimate guru offensively and has weapons and is just he goes from a dumpster fire organization up and down. They can't figure out who's coaching year after year. They whiff on draft picks. He's with a real organization. You saw that thing come to fruition in week 1. Probably a little too early to crown Matthew Stafford, but Matthew Stafford, leadership, late game comebacks, everything, all of those things above Kirk. Dak Prescott's one of the most physically talented quarterbacks in the league. To this point, it hasn't helped the Cowboys do anything on a team level because their defense is so bad. But Derek Carr, people put Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins handcuffed together usually in quarterback rankings, right? If one's 12, the other's 13. If one's 15, the other is 16. Well, 2 things. Declan brought up one of them. Derek Carr has 25 game-winning drives in the last 6 years as a starting quarterback. He had 7 in 2016, by the way, but he has 25 game-winning drives. Kirk Cousins has 15 in his career and only 3 with the Vikings. So Cousins only has 3 of those things with the Vikings. Probably could have had another one if Dalvin Cook, if that call gets called the right way. But the other thing, too, is The Athletic has a statistical department, and they have something we talked about a couple weeks ago called expected points, team-based, quarterback-based. Basically, how are you helping your team drive the scoring of points, right? In the final 4 minutes of halves, Derek Carr is number 1 ahead of Pat Mahomes, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson the last 6 years. Kirk Cousins is all the way down. He's a negative value player inside 4 minutes, according to this metric, right next to Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, and Carson Wentz. And so by almost any measurement, Derek Carr rises up in key moments, crisis moments. Oh, it's Derek Carr. You can't put Derek Carr. No, watch Derek Carr play. He's not the most physically gifted dude, but there's something about him late in games that rises up. Clearly his teammates gravitate toward him. And I just think, if anyone's still putting him in the same category as Kirk, he's a level up from Kirk. So
Stafford and Prescott are I think solidly in a discussion of the top 10. Kirk is not, and among the national pollsters, Kirk has been falling. I mean, we defended him like a month ago because I think he was 18 in one poll, which to us was which I'd say he's 12, 13, 14. But I would never have put Stafford and Prescott, I discussed as being top 10 guys. Kirk is not. I think part of the problem with Derek Carr, because those stats are enlightening, is the fact that John Gruden has never truly really embraced him. And so there's this perception that he's not that good because his coach, who's an offensive guy, doesn't love him. And it feels like since Gruden got there, and they've now been tied together for quite some time, but it feels like every year it's going to be the end, right? Okay, Gruden's going to go get his quarterback and his quarterback now, and no, it's going to be next year. So I think that builds up a bias against Carr because you think, well, if John Gruden doesn't like him, he's just basically a stopgap guy. But he's been a stopgap guy for a long time now, if that's what he is. And he's been good. But those stats, to me, I would have never guessed 25.
It's nuts, man.
Not in a million years. Like, I would have said he and Kirk are probably close. Carr probably has more, but not by a lot. But that stat is not even remotely in the same area.
And real quick, go ahead, Dex.
Seven of them came in one season in 2016 when they went 12-4 and he tore his ACL in week 17. So a bulk of them did come in one season, but still.
But here's another. So, Kirk has 4 with the Vikings. Kirk has 4 game-winning drives with the Vikings in 3+ years. Over that same stretch, Derek Carr, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Derek Carr has, oh my God, is this real? 12? I believe Derek Carr has 12 in the same stretch as Cousins has.
I would never have guessed
4.
that.
And of course, like, people are going to say, well, but like, how many times did Cousins lead the Vikings to a touchdown that took the lead early in the 4th and then the defense blew it? That's called football.
Yeah,
the game doesn't stop with 10 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. That's called football. When the other team knows you have to pass inside 4 minutes, what happens? The Vikings offense derails. The Raiders offense peaks statistically.
And look at last night. Like, that game looked lost at least 3 times, I think. I mean, Derek Carr had that ball bounce off, I believe it was a Ravens defender's helmet, get picked off, and you're like, they are dead. And they came back. And by the way, do either of you guys think that what turned out to be the overtime winning touchdown pass, that Kirk would have thrown that pass? Because that was a really awkward, Carr threw it on one leg. It didn't look good, but that was the type of that was a moment where you say, okay, this dude doesn't need everything to be perfect to throw a pass. And Kirk just doesn't like to do that. Right or wrong, Kirk's not comfortable, I don't think, throwing the pass that Derek Carr threw to win the game.
I actually think the first pass that we thought was the game winner that turned out to then eventually become an interception a few plays later, that was another one where it's like, God, that was pretty tight coverage. It was one-on-one. And the Mannings, who I'm sure we'll get to here and who gets it, who doesn't, the Mannings called that play with Russell Wilson on the live complimentary broadcast, which maybe that's a segue to Judd Zulgad.
Yeah, I was going to say, who gets it? ESPN last night.
We have a clip here, by the way, if you want it.
Basically revolutionized how football games should be telecast. Go ahead and play the clip.
Can 3-jet church. Blue 20, easy. Can.
What's the can mean?
He just canned it right there. Those are 2 plays I just called. This helmet doesn't fit.
Shocking that a helmet doesn't fit you. They didn't have a double XL helmet to fit that forehead.
All right. He called 2 plays in the huddle, right? The first.
Okay.
Dude, it was so good.
Okay, now number 1, that's hilarious. This is a work in progress. I believe they're going to do this between Peyton, Eli, and their guests for about 10 games on Monday nights on ESPN2, simulcast during the actual game.
Great plug. Wow, look at that, dude.
But
it's a great plug.
I think it's 10 games. But anyway.
And on the ESPN app, which you can download for free.
ESPN Plus. Disney Plus bundle.
But I'm going to tell you right now, this is what I have been begging for forever. It's a work in progress. It's not perfect yet, but it's such a good idea. And hearing Peyton and Eli talk about the game and game theory and strategy, and the guests, it was a little bit dicey. For first half, they brought in Barkley, who I absolutely love, but they got way off point, and like they're talking about golf and stuff during the game. And I'm like, I'd like to hear these guys talk about the game. But the second half was phenomenal. And when Russell Wilson joined, an active player, and here's the thing, Russell Wilson joins, becomes instantly the most critical. He's questioning what the Raiders are doing. He's questioning, and that forced Peyton and Eli to up their game. And last thing, Eli is great because he knows his role. Like, Peyton does not shut up. It's actually good though. So like, he's telling you stuff, but he is the older brother. He's going to be in charge. And Eli doesn't fight it. He just lets him go, and then he'll like cut in with a smart-ass comment or a commentary. But anyway, this is where broadcasting sports is going, and I am in love. This is as excited as I've been on the day after a game because of a broadcast in forever.
Me too. They freaking nailed this, and it's so much better than if Peyton were just in the booth in the traditional, like the Tony Romo role. Tony Romo's great, and I think he's bringing a new energy and insight to that type of a role, and he's a modern player, recently retired, but it wouldn't be the same if it was just, it's Peyton and, Steve Levy or whatever in the Monday Night Football booth. Like, those guys in their element. And you brought it up with Russell Wilson. He stayed on for like an hour. He was supposed to be, he's like, I got so much film to watch, I guess I'll just stay up late. And they're in there, they're calling the plays, they're giving you the insight into, what the defensive looks are. And then what I loved was the clock management stuff. Russell Wilson, so with 7 seconds left, the Raiders spiked that ball. Or was it the Raiders spiked the ball, right?
Yes.
And it's like, okay, you're watching from your couch. You're like, you don't have any timeouts left, so you don't want to get too risky, but you probably do have time for a quick out, depending on how much you trust your quarterback, right? And that's a situation where Russell Wilson or Peyton Manning would signal to the sidelines, no, we're running one more. Give me one more.
Yep.
And Wilson's like, this is a mistake. This is like a 55-yard field goal. You could have gotten 7 more yards, and that type of candor doesn't happen usually on traditional broadcasts. Do you guys feel bad at all for Steve Levy and Brian Griese and Booger?
You know what?
Poor guys.
They're victims of the climate where we're going. No, I don't, because this is what I've been. How long, Phil, have we talked about this? Now, I was thinking more of a booth for this as opposed to like studio couches. But how long have we as sports fans pined for, I can watch the game. Like, I can see what's going on. You don't have to say, Latavius Murray for 3 yards to the right side, and now it's 2nd and 7. And that's what I loved. And when Wilson got on, that's what I want. I want football people who know more than I do to tell me, because I can learn then. Like, Daryl Moose Johnston, what did he tell you on Sunday where you're like, oh, I didn't know that. Very interesting. The Vikings receivers are covering.
Apparently Cincinnati is the toughest place to play in the world, according to Daryl Moose Johnson, because that's what it sounded like.
But I mean, how
sounds
useless.
Like 17 jetliners.
Yeah.
How useless is that? Like, this was great. And as a sports fan, this is what I want for all my sports. I want people who have recently played and love the game and know a ton about it. Educate me.
One of the best anecdotes, so they had Ray Lewis on for a little while.
Yep.
And Peyton goes, I want to hear the story about how Ray Lewis corrected your protections in your rookie season. So Eli was a rookie in like 2005 or 6 or whatever year it was. And, you walk up to the line of scrimmage and the quarterback and the center have to sort of combine to point out, okay, who's the Mike, so that we know where the center of our offensive protection strategy lies, right? Yep. And Eli points over and says, whatever, like 58's the Mike, and Ray Lewis leans over. He's like, no, I'm the Mike on this play. And like, oh yeah, Eli's like, oh yeah, Ray's right. Sorry, 52's the Mike. Anecdotes like that are hilarious, and you're right. Eli is sneaky funny.
Yep,
like that dude is like the one-liners and stuff.
He slithers in though.
Yeah,
he's like he slithers in and zings Peyton, and Peyton's like, that was a good one. It just works. It's genius. I will never watch the actual broadcast again if those two are doing their thing. This is what I want.
So, Dex, before you make another negative comment about Peyton Manning, you're very anti-Peyton Manning. Sure. I urge you to give it 30 minutes.
Okay.
30 minutes, and then are they doing it again next Monday?
I don't know yet.
I think they are.
Granted,
hope so.
I can find means to do it, but I do not have cable. So this is a potential issue for me to get the ESPN2 app. I can probably figure out how to get to ESPN2 with some little elves and birdies. But
we'll float you a login or something. We just want you to watch 30.
Let me know.
Elves and
let me know.
Illegal what you're doing, damn it.
Who gets it, who doesn't? We'll go back to Declan here in a second. But hey, PXG gets it. They've been making some of the best golf clubs here. They are one of the hottest golf brands on the market. And PXG Minneapolis is a golfer's paradise. You might think, well, it's Labor Day has passed, the end of the golf season. Oh, no. The real diehards, fall golf is where it's at. So still plenty of time left to get out there, check out some of these Gen 4 clubs that are in stock right now, the best performing clubs PXG has ever made. PXG Minneapolis in Southdale Center. And find out more at pxg.com/Minneapolis.
All right. The Yankees get it because the Twins are pathetic. The Yankees get it. The Twins are pathetic. My God, a 5-0 lead, and I saw the 8th inning strike zone. I get that. But the fact we're crutching, I should say, to the umpire strike zone as the reason maybe you lost that game to the Yankees when the Yankees have just continually beating you up for the last 20 plus years. No, the Yankees have dominated you from start to finish. Of course they walk you off. Of course they overcome a 5-0 deficit. Now, I saw Rocco look like he was pretty fired up for like the first time in his managerial career over that loss, and he said guys were really upset. That's great. If that Twins locker room is actually legitimately pissed off, awesome, because I've yet to really see that in this rivalry. But the Yankees continue to get it, and the Twins do not, and it's just another chapter in this amazing eventual New York Times bestseller.
You know, I'm curious here. I might send a tweet out here. I'm curious to take a poll. I'm going to ask you guys. I think I know the answer for Declan because he just ranted about it. But in general, do you care about the Twins?
In general,
right
no. But if Rocco gets mad, I do, because I find it to be intriguing, and I find his timing on this one to be weird. Dude, you've lost or been part of 18 consecutive playoff defeats. You got swept out by the Astros last year. There have been times when you've been going pretty well and something's gone wrong, and you're like, oh, it's been a great season. I'm very happy with it. And this is what pushes you over the brink. An arbitrary Monday makeup game against the Yankees, in which you guys, by the way, melted down again. As I got a note from a friend that put it very well. Just because Tyler Duffy got screwed, Colomé didn't have to give up a home run, I believe, to the first guy he faced. Like, it wasn't a league rule.
It is a rule. Against the Yankees, it is a rule.
Jeff Nelson said, okay, I am not even going to pay attention now until somebody hits a 3-run home run. So, like, I don't care about the Twins 2021 for the most part, Phil. But this one confused me. It's like, this is where you're going to get mad. And Royce might be right, what he said. Rocco might be in a bad mood because he doesn't sleep now because he's got a kid. But my God, this is a weird time to pick your, we're all trying and we're all pissed off about this. Now?
Yeah.
Now?
It is weird.
Your unvaxxed shortstop screwed your season. Now?
I just sent a Twitter poll out here just out of curiosity. In general, do you care about the Minnesota Twins? No, I'm over the Twins. Yes, I can't quit them. Wake me in 2023, which I feel like is the direction this thing is headed in.
Yeah.
I just can't. I was so, and a lot of people are going to say, well, it's your own doing. Mackie, you've been a Twins homer for all these years. It's like when they got swept by the Astros, and then of course like back-to-back years where they can't get by the Yankees. I have a more sour taste in my mouth about this Twins team than I've had in probably 10 years. Like the 2011-12 Twins, that was disgusting too because they just moved into a new stadium and they just like everything crumbled. But like this was supposed to be a young nucleus. You're supposed to also retain your young talent in their prime, guys like Barrios. And I'm all for the trade. I think they did a good job with the trade. But ultimately, it's like, what are you guys doing? So you're 0-18 in the playoffs since 2004. You can't win a playoff game. A game in the playoffs for 18 straight tries, which is embarrassing. And there should be somebody, we should create a Twitter account. There should be somebody that literally mentions that once a day to remind people. I don't think it's being mentioned enough still. It's like, oh, we just kind of forgot about it because the Twins are bad this year. No, the Twins are bad this year. And let's not forget, they are 0-18 in playoff games since 2004. And how pathetic that is. This is the most I've been down and just over the Twins in a long time. So, well, I didn't watch.
For the most part now, I don't care. But when you've been this bad and this disappointing, and your first time that you're going to jump off the cliff and get pissed off is about an umpire's call, when you blew the bleeping lead, that ticks me off. I look at that and I said, what are you talking about? Like, get mad about your team. Get mad. Like, if it's fine to show fire and passion, but do it about the right things. This is what you're mad about?
I'm not a big proponent in breaks in romantic relationships. I need a break from the Minnesota Twins. Like, I don't like pausing and starting something.
You just called him here on the show. I mean, you just you sent a little text message here on the show to them.
And look, there can be summer flings, i.e. Joe Ryan. That's fine. You know, I can have a little fling to tie me over. But in general, I'm not committing to this ball club for a little while, okay?
See, you're young. That's fine. I'm sports dad. So the twins are like my kid. I can't just like cut off ties. But I'm disgusted, and like they're flunking out of school and doing drugs now, and I'm not happy about that.
Doing drugs.
They're doing drugs. They're drinking. I find them on the street corner. They're smoking. I found cigarettes.
If your life's together, you can drink and do drugs. I don't care.
Pornographic material below
this team's
their
not
bed.
Together.
I'm very upset with
Sports dad found pornographic material below
That's
twins'
what dads
bed.
used to find. Dad, parents used to find porno mags below their kids' beds.
Oh my God. Who gets it? Who doesn't? Who doesn't get it? I know it's only been one game, but Klint Kubiak. For this reason, this is also a preview of a Purple Daily segment we're going to do later today too. So the Vikings threw the ball 49 times in that game, and that's not why they don't get it. I'm actually okay with throwing the ball, but you have to throw the ball in a certain way. Play action is what Kirk Cousins is amazing at. It's the one thing this offense does really, really well without really any exceptions. Play action. Running the ball, you're dependent on your offensive line. I think throwing the ball when defenders know you're going to throw the ball can be a problem. But when you have a little bit of deception and you can fake that handoff to Dalvin Cook and drop back, Kirk Cousins is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL the last 3 years. The Vikings ran 8 play-action passes out of 49 in that game on Sunday.
Yep.
And I get, but they were in 3rd and 20 every time or 2nd and long. Well, a couple things. They were definitely in those long downs a lot, but they weren't in those long downs the whole game, okay? Like, it wasn't like, they ran 8 play actions and the other 41 pass plays, it was 3rd and 18 every time. That's an over-exaggeration. And number 2, our guy Tyler Fornes from Climbing the Pocket, I was on his podcast last night with Deshaun Vaughn. Fun Vikings discussion, a lot of therapy. And I brought this up. I said, 8 play actions, probably not enough, but weren't they in like 2nd and 3rd and long a lot? And Tyler said they were, but there's a lot of studies that show even if you're in those long, like unlikely to run downs, you can still fake a handoff and suck defenders in. Like that's still a thing that defenders don't just not bite on play action because it's 2nd and 12 or 3rd and 12, right? Like it's still effective according to a lot of analytical studies. So Klint Kubiak got to do better than 8 play-action passes, which the Vikings only had 42 yards on, checkdowns on all of them.
And here's the problem with that, and this gets back to DiFilippo and how you run an offense. Kirk Cousins' skill set doesn't necessarily dovetail into the modern game of play calling. So Klint Kubiak actually probably backed away from what his dad did because his dad coddled Kirk because Mike said just coddle Kirk. So if Klint was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna update things a bit. I'm not going to have as much play action. And Kirk's a highly paid professional quarterback. He'll be fine. The problem is he's not fine. So like this is the conundrum here because if you go back to what Kirk does well, you're actually doing things that are fine, but you're doing them too much, and they aren't necessarily overall the modern game. Like this is the problem. John DiFilippo was not a moron. John DiFilippo was trying to run an offense that he saw fit to be run back in, was it 2018? And the reality was Kirk was like, you can't really run this offense. A lot of shotgun,
Which is also like, be a less rigid coach. If your quarterback can't run certain things, then don't make him run.
But what I'm saying is, what's the blame point or what's the meeting point between you have to be more flexible to do what your quarterback does well, but if your quarterback can't do things well that he should do well, like that's where it's a problem.
Also, according to Sharp Football, last season the Vikings only ran 10 total plays in all of last season with 4 wide receivers on the field. Yesterday, or on week 1 and Sunday, 9 plays with 4 wide receivers on the field.
Interesting. That's very interesting. So a lot of differences in week 1 then from Gary Kubiak. One more, back to Judd.
Yes, I'm going to stay on the Vikings theme, and I'm going to give you the 10,000-foot view of who doesn't get it. I'm going to give you one example, and it's a while ago, but it is the overall disconnect of 2 men that don't get it because they don't get each other. Rick Spielman meet Mike Zimmer, and here's why. Did you guys happen to see the Las Vegas Raiders' very successful kicker last night? He looked familiar to me. Still a pretty young guy. I forget his name. Hold on a sec. Oh, I've got it written down right here. It's Daniel Carlson.
Yeah.
Okay, here's how they don't get it. Rick Spielman made a draft pick that should have worked out really well.
Yeah.
But he drafted him for a coach who has no tolerance for young kickers who, by the way, might get uptight because said coach makes them uptight. It's two men who very much have what I would call parallel existences in trying to run a team where they should cross at some point, but they never do. And Daniel Carlson is Exhibit A. Think about this, okay? So what Spielman did wasn't wrong. He found an SEC kid with a huge leg, and he drafted him. And it looks like a great pick now. But he drafted him for a coach who's got no tolerance. And this is always why I get very skittish when fans say, you know, Vikings should bring in this guy. You know, Jameis Winston would be great. He looks great for the Saints. So, no, he wouldn't necessarily be great here. Zimmer's impatience at certain positions, I think, short circuits opportunity. And in Daniel Carlson's case, we now have significant evidence that Daniel Carlson, you guys, went and kicked for John Gruden. Last time I checked, Gruden's wired himself, but he had the patience. So these are two men that don't get each other. And I don't know that the drafting process necessarily works because the GM might be drafting decent players, but the coach sours on them. And I'll give you Exhibit B right now, you guys, Cam Dantzler. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and say this is all Cam's fault. He's a young kid who got a lot of experience and got thrown into a very difficult fire. And now you're disappointed and you're like, you are scratched on game day. I'm not going to put that all on the player. That is partially on coaching and tolerance and cultivating young men into becoming good football players as adults.
Yep. And there's going to be guys might take a step back. You immediately, you're just going to cut bait. You're just done. Guy takes a step back. Oh, sorry, gone. Mackenzie Alexander was kind of that way. He took a step back. We don't need to give him a contract. Then the year later, it's like you're begging him to come back. You know?
But I mean, Cam Dantzler's a third-round pick, and you were already just like, oh, we might be done here. What are you talking about?
The Niners reportedly inquired about Cam Dantzler's availability. So some teams looking to buy low there. So that's who gets it, who doesn't here on Mackey and Judd, daily Minnesota sports entertainment.